Well, I think it's time to show you guys how I do some of my brass cleaning. I don't have a wet tumbler. I've been trying to build one for like 8 months. I just haven't actually built it. I've gone through several different designs that I didn't like. So I'm still using my vibratory tumbler with walnut media, and I throw a little polish in there to try and keep the dust down. It's not necessarily to polish the cases, but to keep the dust down. I wasn't smart. I didn't buy a media separator when I got set up to do this, and I'm too cheap to buy it now. I figure if I'm going to stainless steel pins and wet tumbling to keep the dust down and everything, I might as well not buy the separator, because I'll just use a magnet or whatever. But this is pretty much how I do it. Put gloves on, because this stuff gets a mess freaking everywhere. It's dust, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Every time I use this stuff, I gotta clean up, vacuum the floor and clean up around the area, and it makes an absolute mess. I hate using it, but right now, that $150 for a nice Frankfurt Arsenal tumbler or something like that with the pins already, it's money I have to use in other areas of life, and I have a way to clean my brass for the time being. It's not the best, but it works. I would be dumping all this media out with the brass in it into a tray to separate it that way, but I want to try and minimize the dust. I don't want that dust getting everywhere. I don't want to be breathing it in. I don't want to deal with this dust. So for right now, I go through one by one, pick them out, and this is pretty much how it goes. Now, what I do that other people don't do is when I'm done with this step, and hopefully I'll have enough time to show you. When I'm done with this step, I get all the cases out, I'll refill this and put, if I have more brass to run, I'll put more brass in there. And at the moment I have 4570 brass I want to run. You know, I'll keep doing this, and all I'm doing is I'm picking these up and I'm putting them in the tray that I use for powder coating in my oven, because what I do is when I'm done sorting and trying to separate as much of the media as I can, I'll take it over to my sink and I'll rinse all the cases off to try and minimize the dust that's actually on these cases. So I'm not handling it all the time. All that dust and dirt's not going through my dies. I don't have to really mess with the mess when it's all said and done. But usually I'll sit down and do this. Now the problem being is with this vibratory tumbler, no matter what, I usually end up running it between 5 and 8 hours to get the brass where I want it. And it kind of cleans the inside of the case half decently. You can't probably see it hardly at all. It cleans it, but that's because, like I said, I'm running it for at least 5 hours per load, which is probably very excessive, but I want to try and minimize what's on the inside of the cases, so I'm not losing case capacity and my loads aren't changing that much. A lot of people will probably say, oh, well, that little bit ain't going to do nothing, but if I get 10 firings out of these, I think it's enough to do something. And on a high pressure round like 10 millimeter, I'd rather not take that chance. And I don't know if you guys can see it in the video or not, but the dust is just everywhere. Now, I pre-sort my brass. I don't throw everything in at once. I try to pre-sort it so I know what's going in. Sometimes I miss a couple, like this little 9 millimeter that's stuck in a 10 millimeter case. And these little buggers are hard to get out, man. They really are. Because all the walnut media gets in between them, and they just get stuck all to heck. And I don't have a pair of pliers in here to grab it with and pull it apart. So what I end up doing is trying to grab it with my hand and try and spin it and get some of that media out of the way. Do I have a pair of pliers? No, I don't. Usually what I'll do is, because one of these cases to me is sacrificial. 9 millimeters everywhere. 10 millimeters hard to find, so I'll just sacrifice the 9 case and call it good. But I don't have much. Man, all that damn dust. I definitely need to get on with trying to build that tumbler or buy one or something, because this is just horrible. Like, breathing this stuff in, I know it can't be good for you in the least little bit at all. And I'd really prefer to keep my health. I'm a smoker to begin with, so my health isn't great to begin with. So I prefer to try and stay as healthy as I can, and this stuff isn't exactly the healthiest. it is what it is, you know. So this one I'll separate later in sense of trying to make this video. I'm going to try and get this stuff done as quick as I can, so this video is not an hour long. So pretty much they all go into a tray like this, and then they go to my kitchen sink. So we'll go to the sink and I'll try and show you how I go about this. So here's the sink. Try and keep all my food stuff separate, but sometimes it doesn't work out, and it's just literally rinsing with water. Try and knock as much of that dust off as I can. Now, as you can see, the only downside to doing it this way is they all end up standing up with the mouths open and they fill up with water. So, once again, I have to go ahead and flip them all and dump them. Try and get all the water out, because these actually, I don't air dry these. What I'll end up doing is putting them in my toaster oven for powder coating at a very, very low heat, to try and take out as much of the moisture as I can. I should have brought a little bucket with me. I didn't think to grab a little bucket. You guys should go grab one real quick. But you know, you kind of get the idea. It's time consuming and it's a pain in the butt. If I had a media separator or a little bit more brains, I'm sure it would be a lot easier. This is the reason I want to do the wet tumbler, because I feel like it does all these steps in one. And I don't have to worry about dust or any of this nonsense. I got to worry about pins. And I'm perfectly happy with using the pins, because they get the cases inside spickety span. They get the primer pockets if you decap, which, by the way, dry tumbling, I do not decap first, because the walnut media tends to get in the primer pockets. Or the flash holes, I'm sorry, rather. It does get in the primer pockets also, but in the flash holes I'm more concerned with, because every time I go to decap a piece of brass, it's making a mess all over my reloading bench, all over my press. It literally goes everywhere. It's an absolute pain in the butt. So I tend to not enjoy doing this. But I like the brass to be clean, because I like it to work. I don't want it to not function. So this is pretty much my process. Once I get the majority of the water out, I'm not going to get all of it out, obviously. I just need to get as much of it out as I can, so this brass isn't soaking wet when it comes out of my oven. I was thinking about doing a video of when I do actually get around to building my wet tumbler, but we'll see if I ever actually get around to that. I was pretty much going to steal like a tumbler or the Frankfurt Arsenal idea. I just got to figure out the tank. Everyone's like, I just use PVC, and I'm, 6-inch PVC is expensive. I have a bunch of Freon tanks that I've cut open. I just have to figure out how to seal the end of them so the lid doesn't leak like a sieve, and I can actually retain water in the soap and brass and steel pins. So yeah. So this is more or less the process right now. You're picking them up one by one. You know, you gotta. For me, I gotta handle the brass 30 times before I get a reloaded cartridge. You know, it might be an exaggeration, 30 times, but there's a lot of brass handling going on before I ever even make it to the press. And once I get to the press, I only have a little single stage Lee C-style press. It's not even like a cast iron. I really don't like that press. I need to buy a new press. Once I get to that, you know, then I got 4 more times I gotta handle each piece of brass. And 30 is definitely an exaggeration, but it's a lot of handling. I wish I had never sold my Dillon. I had a Dillon, and you know, I always thought, well, you know, I don't need a progressive, and it's too fast, and to me it left too much room for error, because it's very easy to not pay attention what you're doing with those presses and screw something up. So I shake it up, try and get them all facing up again. So real quick, I can look down in the cases and see if there's a bunch of water in any of them. I know I'm gonna miss some. That's the point of going in the oven. I can't exactly air dry them right now because it's like 30 something degrees outside. It isn't very warm at all. Well, I probably could air dry them, but I choose not to because it's so cold. This would probably work a lot better if I had a bigger tray too, so they didn't have to all bounce against each other and stand up. But more or less that's the idea with this. Get them fairly well dry. You know, you can kind of, well no you can't see, I'm sorry. Get them fairly well dry and then we'll go back in the reloading room. And, let's see if I can sit up here so you can see the oven. I do like this new tripod. It is very handy because it's very easy to maneuver around and get stuff where you want it. And literally just go in the oven, and what I'll do is I'll try and use one of my molds that I have sitting on top, and I'll try and space the door open so the moisture can get out while it's heating. It'll probably help if it was plugged in also. I never leave my stuff plugged in. Too many people are worried about fires and such. I need to get a rubber band on that. And it's like just barely under warm because it's minimum warm 450s over here somewheres. So it's just barely under warm. I don't want to heat the cases up and anneal them. I just want to get the moisture out, and the little bit of heat kind of accelerates it, so it's not too bad. And once that's done, the glove can come off because I don't want to get dust and all that crap glued to them. And I saved those gloves for that particular use. They're specifically just for cleaning brass. And then all I'll do is I'll take whatever I need to clean, like my 4570, and right back in the bin. Dump it back in. I tend to dump this box lid back in because that's where a lot of the walnut media ends up going, is in that box. In this one case, I'm not too worried about. You know, I'll just separate it and wash it off real quick by hand. It's not a big deal whenever I get around to it. And that's pretty much it. Make sure the gasket's on there tight so it's not leaking all over the place. Make sure all that stuff's tight. And then this actually goes in my closet. Yeah, this stand is very, very handy. I like it. Stop barking, guys. Here's my closet. Gets turned on. And the closet door gets shut so you don't hear the noise. And that's pretty much my case cleaning process. It's a lot of nonsense. It really is. But for right now, I just got to make it work until I get a wet tumbler. So, thanks for watching and stay tuned.